Hey everybody, this is Charles,
And hi, I'm Latia.
and we're Marriage the Third Ring. And thank you guys for joining us for our marriage seminar, crisis management. Yeah, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be fun. I think everybody here is gonna get a lot of a lot of information. So definitely stick with us and check it out because there's gonna be a lot going on here today. Okay?
Yes, and you will see us. We're monitoring the ones that registered in. Those ones are on our Zoom, and then we know we are also broadcasting it on Facebook. So we just will be monitoring both. Just a few housekeeping rules. You won't listen to us the whole time. We will bring in panelists. If you have a question, you will have a chance to ask your question. You can inbox us if you need it to be personal. You can literally inbox Marriage to Third Ring or me or Charles. If you got our number, you can text us and we can ask it anonymously. You can ask. We will monitor the Zoom question and answer chat box. We'll also monitor Facebook Live. The ones who did register will get their questions asked 1st. Mm-hmm. So just in lieu of time, we'll have different people in here, different years of marriage, different spectrums, even in the regular world. So they can bring different things to us. So it's going to be a fun evening. We hope you can stay on with us. We'll give you some breaks throughout. We won't bore you, and we'll switch things up. So just take a few minutes to hang out with us today. We appreciate this, and we hope something blesses you.
Yes. So to kind of give a little information about ourselves, Charles and Latia, again, Marriage to Third Ring. We started Marriage to Third Ring actually kind of in a low place ourselves. We were, I guess, going through and talking about our marriage and how our marriage is actually important to God, how your marriage is important to God. That's actually how we came up with the book title. But Marriage to Third Ring was actually created because we were actually, the view we were actually given of marriage was that is God, your husband and your wife, and that's the third ring. So you're all married together. She used to ask me all the time, do you love God? If I'm loving God, then I have no choice but to love her as well too. So that's how we came up with the whole concept of Marriage to Third Ring.
Yes, and I guess also why we do what we do. We were young. We got married when we were 21. We were still in college. We were 21. This year marks 18 years. There's no rule book really. I mean, some people grow up with that. Charles's parents were married. My mom was not. My dad was, but I grew up with my mom. So you might have this picture of what marriage should be, or what you've seen growing up, or how you've seen in the storybooks or on TV. And then you realize quickly this ain't it. But so you have to learn. I think 3 years in is when I said I don't want this, because he used to do everything. He used to write poems and run in bath water and all this wonderful good stuff. And then he got me and stopped. And so so you go through challenges. It's so easy. Divorce rate is so high because it's so easy to walk away. It's easy. Anything that's worth having is worth working for. So when something becomes easy to do and just walk away, then you do it, because why? You don't feel like, why put in the time? Why work for it?
Exactly.
So we wanted to let people know there is still young couples that can make it happen. Life is hard. Marriage is hard. So many outside fillers is hard. Like even during this Corona time, our pastor teaches us to guard our ear gates and our eye gates. And that's what you have to even do with marriage, because somebody else's marriage might not be like what goes on in your household. And that's one thing we want to touch on today is It might not be what we're giving you. None of us are marriage counselors. We're marriage coaches, and we can coach you through some things. We have some counselors that will be talking to you today, but none of us are professed marriage counselors. So the things we're giving you today are giving you tools to succeed in your marriage, things that you might can implement. We're going to cover finance. Somebody's going to talk about finance. What works in their house might not work in your house, but you can pull things to help.
Like you said, these are tools. These are pieces of advice that people have used themselves that'll work for them. Not every tool is good in every situation. So you have to temper that with wisdom to know what's going to work and be best for you. But listen, there's going to be tons of good information, tons of good tools and nuggets that you can use actually to better yourself and better your marriage.
Exactly. So we're getting started, and we're going to talk to them about our little panelists today. So the first one we're going to cover today, we're going to talk to you about mental health, because it's so important to have a good, healthy marriage. And in order for your marriage to be healthy, you have to be healthy mentally. So we're going to talk about that, how what it means to be healthy mentally in your marriage, and what certain things is.
Right.
Talk about communication, because how many of you know that without communication, none of this will work if you do not know how to talk to your spouse. So there's tools that you will learn on how to talk to your spouse, and how to hopefully they receive it. As you all know, we are big fans of love languages, and I feel like come love languages come in many, love languages hand on every aspect. So especially in communication, you have to know your spouse's love language to effectively communicate with them. So we'll talk about some communication. Um, we'll also talk about how to recover after the crisis, because you will go through crisis in your marriage. It might not be to an extent of some, but trust me, if it's a crisis, it's a crisis. So certain crises are different to certain people. It could be a financial crisis. It could be a infidelity crisis. It could be a communication crisis. It could be a parenting crisis. So many different things, because you take them vows for better or for worse. And when you're taking your vows, you're in it for better or for worse. So that's a long time. So,
like with any crisis, though, not necessarily mean that just because you're watching the video today, or even one of the panelists talking, or even ourselves, means just because you're here doesn't mean that you're actually going presently through a crisis. But with any crisis, though, there needs to be a plan of action. There needs to be some sort of preparedness set up beforehand, so that when things do arise, you're actually prepared to go ahead and move forward and handle it. So even like if you're on a ship or something, you hear the alarm going off. Well, the alarm might be going off, but they've already had a plan set in place that, hey, this alarm is going off. We know what to do. We need to get into our respective places. So, to avoid further catastrophe or disaster. So at some point, like, everybody's had some kind of alarm going off in their marriage, but were you in place after that alarm went off to make sure that, hey, we're in place, we know what to do, let's get ourselves in order to handle what we need to do.
Exactly.
Take a drink of water.
So again, we have some more people coming in. I just want to remind you all that you can always ask questions. You can even send us the questions. And you, any other housekeeping rules? You will be muted. You will not be on camera.
So I did put that into the the chat box on Zoom, but I want to remind Facebook as well. The panelists are going to be the only one actually talking and on camera. The only ones that will not be on camera will be the attendees. So the attendees via Zoom or on Facebook. Okay, we got it. I just don't want to be uncomfortable, like they're in a kind of a weird spot. But again, the only people that will be on camera are going to be the panelists. If you have questions, put your questions into the chat box. Like she said, we're monitoring the chat box on Zoom and on Facebook. Got it? Okay. So the last one she did not mention as of yet was seeking wise counsel. Seeking wise counsel is important, especially when you're in marriage. Any kind of relationship, really, to seek wise counsel. So if you're going through something, you can't tell everybody.
True.
Right. So you can't tell everybody your business. You have to be temper who you're talking to with wisdom to know who you're talking to about whatever issue is going on.
Yes.
Because if you're talking to somebody that's not married and doesn't understand how relationships work, then you're probably not going to get the advice that you're looking for. You may or may not. I don't know. But it's best, though, if you're going to be talking to somebody about something in your marriage, that it's somebody that's a married couple. Let's start there. Talking to somebody that's a married couple. Talk to somebody that has experience and knows what you're going through. Yeah. So you have to be wise in who you're choosing to talk to. But I don't want to give everything away. Our panelists are going to be talking to you about that.
We're not even y'all's hosts. But that's why we do what we do. Because that's what we started talking about. It's just, and we want you to seek. We even talked about you're doing maintenance on your marriage. So please share this video, and please let someone know. We'll do some different icebreakers down the line. And at the end, you'll get the chance to ask all of our panelists your questions. So first, we want to give our introductions of some of our panelists. So we got who's coming to you all first. And I was just making sure all of our panelists was able to get in. Yeah. Sorry, you guys, they were all getting in. So we're multitasking. So our first one will be Parrish and Stephanie Jenkins. Parrish holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and a bachelor's of science in nursing. He has worked as a counselor before becoming a registered nurse. He is currently pursuing a master's degree in nursing with the goal of becoming a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Stephanie Jenkins has a master's degree in communication disorders and has worked as a speech language pathologist for more than 27 years. Parrish and Stephanie have a passion for emotional health. They believe that human beings are comprised, yeah, I said it right, of spirit, soul, and body. Within the soul is the person's mind, will, intellect, and emotions. They believe achieving a healthy soul or emotional healthiness is the key to living what the Bible calls life and more abundantly. And they, so we are having them come up, and I think I just got a message.
Yeah, she needed that password.
Oh, okay. It was on. Okay, so they are coming up, and as they come up, we are going to, I apologize, you guys.
You got that?
There, no, you have one? We don't have one. So yeah, bear with me 2 seconds. And we just want to thank all of our guests for coming on.
Yes, thank you guys. We went through this selection process. So the panelists that we have coming to you today, you guys should have seen the flyer. We have the Davis, we have the Coldclaw family, we have the Pittman family, and the Jenkins family. We selected them because we've known them for years, and they seem to be excellent, experienced people in their respective fields and areas. So this is going to be a great time. We're actually waiting for one other panelist to join in, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Sorry, it's coming.
Bear with us 1 second. So this is actually a new venture for us. I mean, we've done Facebook Lives before, but this was actually something new, clearly. And the reason why it kind of came about, I mean, everybody knows we're going through the whole COVID-19 crisis right now. And we were talking, and she was saying how some of the patients she goes to go see, like some of them may or may not like each other, but hey, you got married people in the house that may or may not like each other, and they're stuck in the house quarantined together, and they got to learn how to deal with each other during this crisis. So it's important that, you know, if they maybe have had some of these tools years back when whatever caused the crisis, whatever caused the alarm to go off in the marriage, they may or may not be in the place that they're in now, where one person may not like or even want to be around another. So it's important that, you know, again, in talking about crisis, you have the information that you need to be prepared ahead of time.
Yes. And now, so I gave the introduction to Parrish and Stephanie. As you see, they have a lot of background in mental health. And now they're actually about to come on and start, and we're going to turn it over to them.
All right. There we go.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Session to them, and they're going to give you a little bit about mental health. While they're talking, if there is any questions, please use your chat box that's at the bottom, or please, you know, put it in, and we'll ask the questions for you once they get done. So they're going to give you a little bit about why it's so important to have a mental healthy marriage. Thank you. Hi. Hello.
Hey. Good evening and good afternoon, everybody. Just for a few minutes, we're just going to talk briefly about the importance of mental health and how that relates to having a healthy marriage. One of the things that I want to start off with is just dispelling one of the myths that is kind of prevalent, especially in the African-American community. And sometimes we feel that if we talk about mental health or mental illness, that we're sick, that we have a problem. People are going to talk about us. But I think that it's important that we look at mental health the same way that we do it as we do with medical health. If we have a problem with our heart, we go see the cardiologist. If we have a problem with our feet, we go see the podiatrist. And those same things apply to our emotional health. And that also relates to our marriage. You know, a lot of guys are out there on the line. We're real good at taking care of the maintenance of our cars, of our homes. And those same things apply, those same needs apply in our marriages. Just like with our homes and our cars, if we don't take care of our marriage and don't do the preventive maintenance that we should, they too, as well, will have problems down the road. And so that's just one of the things that I just wanted to start out initially before we even get into this.
Very, very good. The next thing we're going to talk about as it applies to this is right now, I heard this from one of the psychologists I was watching a webinar on. And she said, right now, with all that's going on, COVID-19, all the other things that are going on in America, this is actually a time of trauma. And so many of us, even the strongest of us, are going through what's considered to be a state of trauma. And so our mind and our bodies always react during times of trauma. We either respond or we react. And so likewise, during this time of trauma, we have to make sure that we're handling ourselves in a way that is sufficient when you're under trauma. One of the first things I feel like is important, and Paige and I talked about this earlier today, is sometimes we have to do a self-check. So we just have to pause, stop, and just say, wait a minute, okay, I'm feeling some kind of way right now. I really need to do a little self-check to find out what's going on with me. What's going on with me? Am I anxious? Are my kids getting on my last nerve and my nerves are shot? Am I hungry? Maybe I'm tired. I haven't slept all night because I've been just thinking about everything that's going on. Am I starting to feel depressed? What's going on with me in my psyche and in my mind that's causing me to kind of begin to almost spiral out of control, for lack of a better word, or to just be really, really stressed and anxious, gnawing at your husband and everything he says gets on your last nerve? You need to kind of pull back for a second and do a self-check and kind of become self-aware of what's going on with you. Our bodies are designed to regulate. So our bodies are constantly in a constant mode of, I need to get some normalcy. I need to get a regulated state, a state where my body and my mind are all in sync. The human body is designed to do what's called self-regulate. And so when we do that self-regulation, that's that check we need to do. So then after you listen to your body, you need to give your body what it needs. So oftentimes your body just needs water. Okay, let me stop for a minute, drink a bottle of this water. Let me slow my roll and just take a few breaths. Or, maybe we need some sleep. Hey, tell your husband, listen, I got to close my eyes for just 1 hour. If you can watch the kids for me for just 1 hour. If I don't close my eyes right now, we're going to have some serious problems up in the household. You know how it gets. Or maybe we just need to turn off social media for a couple days this week, yesterday and day before. I said, I can't do this. I can't keep watching social media. I can't keep going on Facebook. I can't keep watching what's going on the news, because I could tell it was causing me to have a reaction versus a response in my body. One of the other things too is sometimes it might just be you need to chill down, sit down for a minute. Everybody in the house, we get ready to pray, because that's the way you can calm your soul, calm your mind. So you want to target those things that you know are going to calm your soul, calm your mind. If it means going out for a walk for a minute, you might need to do that just to kind of give your mind and your soul some breathing room to process what's going on around you, process what's going on in you. That's one of the things I think that we don't do, is we don't give ourselves time to process what we need to process to make it to the next step. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just thinking, as far as it's talking about the trauma, and when we think about all that we're watching and looking on television, we have to realize you can experience the stress of trauma even from witnessing and viewing it on television. Mm-hmm. And as a result, you will still have those same stressors that the person who is experiencing it. And all of us are experiencing. So it is, I think it behooves all of us to really minimize, and this is to reiterate what Stephanie has already said, but to really minimize the amount that we're watching on TV, because when you look at all that on TV, then you start looking at yourself and this could be me, or it may be happening to me next. And so it's really important that we minimize the amount of this trauma as it relates to this COVID-19 that we're seeing, because it'll ultimately affect our marriage.
Right. I think about the scripture. It says, as the mind thinketh, so is he. So whatever you keep pondering and thinking on, be it anxiety, be it fear, be it just feel like loss of control, that's what your body is then in turn going to do. So sometimes, okay, so we've gone through, we've checked ourselves, we realized what we need, but sometimes the next step would be to check your spouse. Now, I don't mean check your spouse as in check your spouse, but you need to kind of take a look at, how is my spouse doing? So I know that my husband's love language, okay? So if you all are not familiar with love languages, we know there's 5 of them. There's words of affirmation, there's quality time, there's gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So the love languages are just merely saying, this is how we receive love. This is the language that you need to speak to us to make sure that we feel like we're being loved the way we were designed to be loved. Because it's all about our design and how we're made up. So I know my husband, his is quality time all
Amen.
day,
Amen.
every day, quality time. So he works, my husband is a nurse, he's a psychiatric nurse, and he works 12-hour shifts. So he only works 3 or 4 days a week. I'm a speech therapist, I'm home all summer. So when I know that my husband is getting ready to be off, I have to, in my mind, prepare myself, because my love language is not quality time. My love language all day is words of affirmation. But I have to prep myself. Okay, now my husband, he's going to want to come in here and watch TV with me. Watch this program with me. Come on, run with me here. He likes time just with him and I doing or watching or something. And so I have to prepare my mind, because that's not my love language. I have to take a look at him and say, okay, he's getting antsy. We might need to go, and we need to watch one of his favorite shoot 'em up, bang, bang, or whatever kind of movies, so that he can kind of regulate himself or be regulated. So basically, we need to provide our support and our comfort based on whatever the language is the other person speaks. Men and women ultimately want to feel heard. We want to feel respected. We want to feel cared for. And so the love languages have a lot to do with how we feel cared for and how we feel okay in our environment.
The next thing that I want to talk about is, in light of the COVID pandemic that's going on right now, and we understand that it's causing a lot of families and a lot of marriages a lot of stress. But I would like you to think, though, for a moment, that there is, in spite of the negativity, there are some silver linings if we look at it deep enough related to this COVID-19. And I just want to share some of those with you. One of the things that COVID-19 is allowing us to do, for some of us, it's been a long time. It's allowing us to reconnect with our families. Many of us may have children. Some of us have multiple children. And I was thinking on the other day that myself, I work 12-hour shifts. Sometimes I do a lot of overtime. And when you think about the average person who's working 40 hours a week, every week, not counting preparation time to and from work, nor the drive time that's involved. So when you really look at the average person on a 40-hour work week, you're really putting in 50 hours. And if you think about it, in the last 2 months, some of us have spent more time with our spouses and families in the last 2 months than we have in the 6 to 8 months prior to. And as a result of that is causing some stresses in itself. But so going back to the benefits of COVID-19, so this time that we're having, and a lot of us have talked about how, we spend a lot of time at work and the hustle and bustle and the struggle of trying to make it happen. Some of us have part-time jobs, and some of us have private businesses that we also own. And so for the first time, we're really spending a lot of time with our families, and we have to appreciate that time. I think one of the things that God has really allowed to happen in this time is really for us to reconnect with our families. It also, and so we can reconnect with our families. It also, something else that I noticed too as a result of COVID-19, it gives us an opportunity to really save a lot of money. My family knows that Stephanie and I are really foodies, and we like to go out to fine dining and all of that. And so in the last 2 months, we've saved a considerable amount of money as a result of COVID-19. So, and for us, it can be perceived as a blessing financially. And it's given us a time, in this time with the COVID-19, it's allowing us to get better prepared, more organized, and we're just really having a lot more deeper conversation with one another. It also gives us a time to become stronger and healthier.
I think too that with this time, I would hate to go out of this time. I think I heard Tia say this in one of her other previous broadcasts, that it would be really sad to get out of all this time. I feel like that we've been given, and to be the same, if not worse, than when we started in it. To be the same old thing. So, you know, for me, I'm on, Lord, give us a snow day. Well, we don't have any school. Well, he has given us a multiplicity of time. And so I don't want to go back into my new school year, still haven't worked on my weight, still haven't gone on dates with my husband, still haven't organized things in my home, just those things that we have been begging time for. So I think that's another silver lining too, is that now is the time when you can do all those things you said, I want to get done.
And I think too, in closing our little segment, you know, some of the things that we can do to help maintain our mental health in this time and maintain a healthier marriage. Some of the things we could do is work out. I mean, many of us have talked about, we want to lose weight, we got extra pounds we want to shed. And so this gives us something that we can do. And also in working out, it produces endorphins, which are those feel-good hormones that we all have. And so working out can be something that we can do. Another thing that we can also do is start eating better, reduce the amount of the sugars and the carbs that we eat. Something else I think that is very important that some of us get back to doing and some of us may not have done in a long time is to date our spouse again. Go out on the dates, and now, you know, you may not be able to go to your favorite restaurant, but you can go for a walk. You can read together. You can pray together. More devotional time. And it's also a good time in this season. We can also develop a hobby. Some of the guys may have an old car they may want to tinker with, or get out in the yard and do a garden or do something around the house. It's also a good time for us to do some of that early spring or late summer, spring cleaning or what have you. And all of those things in that activity, it keeps our minds busy. And so it takes the time of us away from focusing on the negativity of the COVID-19. It's also a good time for some of us who like to write. We can all start journaling. And so in closing, I just want us to realize, because the goal of all of this is to have a balanced life and a balanced marriage. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Parrish and Stephanie. We love you guys. And thank you for your input and your comments here.
Don't go nowhere just yet. Yeah. Don't turn your camera off on us. So we had a couple questions. Stephanie, y'all talked on some really great stuff. How certain things is a trauma. And so even after people come out of this COVID-19, this is a trauma. It's a crisis. So they're going to need these things even as they come out of it. Also, self-check. The self-check and the checking on your spouse. Those was two really important things, because you said it right. First, I'm gonna check myself, because I know I might did all this stuff today. You know, like me, I'm always out working. My husband's at home. So if I come home and I'm antsy or
I'm at home working.
He's at home working, yes. So if I come home and I'm antsy or I'm irritated by every little thing, I know my kids, they know when I come in not to come up to me, because I need to get off my uniform first. I like to try to take off my uniform and shower because I've been out, but they'll try to come and run. But I can't let everything get to me. But if things are bothering me, I need to check myself first. So that's an amazing thing right there. And then once I check myself and the things are still unbalanced in the marriage, okay, let me check in on my husband. Have I been fussing at him, when I know he doesn't receive me fussing well?
Right.
Or have I been, what's going on with him? Is something off with him? And I failed to realize it because my mind is somewhere else, because I might have been focused more on the child than my marriage. So first you do your self-check, and then you check on your spouse. And then I also heard, to me, I just heard when you said self-check, I heard self-care. Because a lot of times when we're checking on ourselves, let's take care of ourselves. So sometimes I feel so much better when my hair is done. Because if my hair is all over my head, it just throws my mood off a little bit sometimes. So, your hair done, nail salons just opened back up. My nails ain't done yet. But, when those things are done and you do a pedicure or something, even guys, go get a pedicure. Go do a hobby, because that's the self-care you need for yourself. So I felt like with that self-checking, you're also taking time out to do some self-care as well. Would you agree, Stephanie?
Absolutely, 100%.
Go ahead, Perry.
See, I just want to interject one other thing too.
Okay.
And you may not have mentioned it in any detail, but there's also a benefit of being able to take time away to collect your thoughts and get your head right.
Right.
And so we have to realize sometime we have to do that, because if we don't, especially as men, a lot of times we may become across as aggressive. I've seen some of the guys on the panel, they look like they used to play football, linebackers and all that. And sometimes that stuff can, if you don't give yourself time to step away, you can say things or do things that you may regret later.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. You definitely have to take some time to get your mind together and just think, because she gets on me sometimes because they like to have family TV. I don't really watch TV, but I can sit on the computer all day long, and that's just kind of how I de-stress from everything else kind of going on, stuff with the kids, stuff at work. But you definitely need to take some time to get your mind right in order to deal with family time, because you can't deal with family the same way you deal with everybody else outside.
That's
you
right.
can't take that same attitude of this is the corporate world. You cannot use that same relationship style and structure at home. You cannot.
And then, and also, I just, that's a good one, Charles. And could y'all answer a question for me? Because as we move through, how important is even helping your spouse? So I'll put it this way. As we know that when you get married, and now this is for married couples, so you're already married, sometimes you bring baggage, and you bring mental baggage in from the way you were raised. So how important is it, once you realize, like how important is that to either, if the spouse notices it about the other spouse, to bring it up, or how important is it to recognize that baggage and talk about it as a couple?
So,
no, go ahead. I'll speak to you. Go ahead.
So before I got married late. I'm kind of a late bloomer, but I was 39 when I married for the first time. This is my only person I've been married to. But I made a point before to go get counseling, because I knew I was bringing some stuff into the picture.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure I was getting some stuff taken care of before I joined somebody, as one, and brought all that baggage and stuff to the marriage. So I went and I made sure to kind of talk through it with somebody, some of the challenges that I've been having. One of the things that's a blessing, I think, in our relationship is we're very open. We talk about everything openly. We don't have any, I can't believe you told your wife that. No, we talk about everything. Because I feel like it's just a good relationship when I feel comfortable enough to talk to you about everything. My husband is a psychologist. He has a bachelor's degree in psychology. So, he's always trying to psychoanalyze me. And at first it got on my nerves.
It runs in the family.
It got on my nerves, but then I had to realize, wait a minute, that's his design, that's his training. So he's kind of bringing that. And so I learned to appreciate it. So you're in response to your question, I think it's very important, if you have that line of communication open, to talk about each other's little quirks and idiosyncrasies.
I think too, Tia and Charles, there's one reality that we all have to bring, and that's that we all bring baggage. This is my second marriage, as most people know. And even if it was just my first, our life experiences allow us, we collect garbage along the way. Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of that garbage we take into every relationship that we enter into. I think it's something that is very important for people to do that self-work beforehand. I think another misconception is people have is that I'm going to get married and this person is going to make me happy. And that's a lie. Yeah. I also agree. I believe that a good marriage enhances the person's happiness or the joy that they already have. Right. I also believe too that one of the awesome things about God, when we find that person that God has ordained for us, that person can be a helpmeet to us. And I think that in moving for couples to move forward, you have to get to that place where you can kind of become naked in front of each other emotionally and share those issues, because I know this to be a fact over years of work and even in my own personal life. Those things that you keep hidden, those things that you keep repressed will always surface in the most inopportune time. And so it's very important that we have that open communication with one another. And that's what gives and nurtures those lifelong marriages and relationships that many of us have witnessed.
That is good. So I want to thank y'all. You will be back later when all the panelists come back. This was very, very helpful. Yes. So thank you so much.
And we had a lot of positive feedback in the comment section.
Yes. So we will have you all back later with the rest of the panelists. Okay, so don't go too far.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So next we have coming up, let's see who we have next. We have Tia and BJ Davis. You got their?
I do.
All right. Read their bio.
I am ready to read their bio, and this is about finance. So how many of you know finances? Woo! Sometimes them finances can get interesting. Especially when you're dealing with two. You know, we've been married for 18 years, so we grew up. You know, but what if you're a person? Stephanie mentioned how she got married at 39. Mm-hmm. She knew how she liked her finances. She knew how she liked her finances and how they operated.
She operated her finances on her own, and then now you have another person putting the whole spin on the whole operation, because you have individual people with different individual finance habits come together trying to make everything work out.
To make that household work. So yes. So we all know, and as we said, what works in one household might not work in that, but we could always learn something from somebody. So I feel like these two are very beneficial to help us. So we have BJ and Tia Davis, have been married for 13 years. BJ is a fraud and claims operations manager at Wells Fargo. He has a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of the District of Columbia and an MBA from the University of Maryland. Tia is a Workday consultant for Allied Solutions. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration from Howard University and an MBA from the University of Maryland. They have 2 children. So they got some degrees out there. They're going to help us and talk to us today and school us on finances.
All right. So Tia and BJ,
return over to you.
You guys.
Hi. Can you guys hear us good?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so we're going to talk about finances and from the marriage perspective. So we've been married for 13 years, as Tia mentioned. And for us, I know, like Tia was just kind of saying, when you first get married and you're combining 2 finances together and you're used to just being by yourself, like it's kind of challenging. So I would say in the first couple of years of marriage, it was kind of tough, like trying to figure out how are we going to combine our 2 finances together? How are we going to handle things? Okay, at first we're like, okay, well, I'll just keep paying for what I normally pay for and you pay for what you normally pay for. And then, see how that works. But for us, we learned that doesn't work. It's better to be together. So what we decided is that for us, since we're one and we decided to be married, let's put our finances together. So we take our money, we put it together. And that way I always tell him, we can get further ahead together if we do this together. So we pay all of our bills together. We put all our money in one budget, and then we take that money, allocate it for bills, and then what's left over, then we use that for extra things, and we save. And then we also make sure that we tithe, and then we also take our money and make sure that like we handle the bills. And then we also allow ourselves allowances. So like I'll have an allowance of money, certain amount of money for the month, and so does he. And with that money, you can do what you want to do with it, and I can do what I want to do with it. And then I don't care. It doesn't matter what you're doing with it. Like it's kind of like your play money. So that's definitely been the first thing that we kind of learned when we first got married. Definitely communicating about your finances, setting a goal for what you guys want. When we got married, we knew we wanted to buy a house. So we started working towards that. Okay, how can we do that? What do we need to pay off? What bills do you have? What bills do I have? What do we have together? How can we pay these off working together to accomplish that goal, and setting those goals and working towards them? So I don't know, BJ.
Oh, that's a great start, baby. How you guys? Yes, but I want to go straight from the beginning. All right. And first, I want to say thank you to you and Charles for giving us this platform to discuss some of the things from my personal marriage, and maybe can assist other people in their marriages as well. And that was a great commentator from Parrish and Steph. I wish I would have learned about mental health like that way in the beginning. But I'm gonna go back and utilize some of the resources you guys gave. But first and foremost, I want to say that none of this was easy. I don't want anyone to think that getting into a marriage and combining finances, oh, it's going to be an easy thing. It's not easy at all. We come from two different backgrounds. I'm from Harlem, New York. She's from Sumter, South Carolina. Households are different. She had, to me, in my personal opinion, she had a more organized, stable family, both mother and father. I didn't have that type of structure. Needless to say, I still, made it a little bit further in life. But what I really want to say is that the finances on how to be a steward of financing was not in my, knowledge as a resource. So I had to, learn that from education and things like that. But even when you combine it in a marriage, our perspectives on how we become a steward of our finances were totally different. Now, we had the same objective, the same goals, but the approach was totally different, okay? And I think my way was the right way. She thinks her way is the right way because how she grew up and so forth. So communication is definitely key. It's not gonna happen overnight. We definitely have to come to an understanding to say, okay, all right, what's been working for me hasn't been working all that good. What's been working for you hasn't been working that good. We clashing on a lot of issues, a lot of things. Let's communicate. And we had to come to that point and put God into our life with that type of conversation. But once we came together and started communicating on certain things and not hide things, because I had a big problem hiding things, that I wanted to do because I feel like she's not going to be, on top of what I want to do and things like that. And when she wants to do her spending and things like that. So communication was really, really big. And then budgeting. And that's the next point I want to get to is budgeting. What do you think about how budgeting?
I think that you just have to sit down and talk about, okay, this is what we want to pay. These are the bills. And then this is what, say, for example, you have a goal, you want to buy a house or a car or something. Okay, how are we going to get to that? How much money do we need to save to accomplish that? So just really laying it all out and communicating about it. That's the biggest thing. And again, working together. I really feel like for us, we've been able to accomplish the goals that we had by putting our money together. It's just so much better when you work together versus, okay, this is my money, this is your money, and I'm gonna hold on to mine. I'll just pay this bill over here, you pay that bill over there. You get so much further by putting it together and working together financially and as a couple.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, that's a good point to you. Definitely, you know, when dealing with finances in a marriage, you know, in my opinion, I feel strongly about this, is that if, you know, we budget for certain things that we want, no matter how long it takes us to get to that goal or that purchase. Because I always make fun of Tia. I say, "Dang, Tia, you're cheap or you frugal. Let's go ahead and get this now." And then I see that a month or two later, wherever we wanted to purchase dropped significantly for whatever reason. And I'm like, okay, I see why she says let's budget for it. And then, you know, you never know what can happen for big purchases and things like that, or investing and things like that. And I want to get to that later on investing as well. But I think that going in any type of financing or within a marriage, look for any type of financial advisor, a personal banker, or someone you could talk with as well. Just like for marriages, having a marriage counselor to kind of buffer in and chime in to assist with, you know, so you guys will have a different perspective, a third party perspective. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely do think that helps. Being able to have someone that can help you like set your goals and work towards them. And then also educating yourself. Like we've done a lot of that. Like he wanted to get into investments. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But what's your plan? How's that going to happen? How are you going to make it happen? What tools are you going to use? So he researched it and then came back to me and said, okay, we should do this and do that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So even if you can't go or afford to find a financial investor or a personal banker, at least educating yourself. There's so many resources on the internet. All you have to do is Google it and it'll come up. Just do the research for yourself. Even talk to friends, other people, ask them what they're doing, you know, so that you can get ideas and they can, you know, you learn more. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, and I work at a bank and I still look for resources within the bank. When I'm trying to, you know, even purchase a house, I got some good resources on, you know, what should I do to purchase the right? And then I take that back home to my wife and communicate that to her. And she said, oh, let's look into this and things like that. So I think, you know, budgeting, communicating within, you know, between the two of us and the third party always helps within your marriage when it comes to finances.
This is some amazing. One day y'all gonna have to give us a whole financial.
I have a lot more to talk about. Tia's keeping me in.
I know.
Okay.
She know how to will you in, and Charles knows how to will me in.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a Gemini. You know.
This is some good information, you guys. Okay, so and Charles will be right back. He stepped out. Real quick, he's right here, but
and I do have, not to cut you off, to you, and I do have later on, if anyone needs some additional resources, personal bankers, financial advisors, I have a lot of contacts that I trust as well if anyone is interested. Okay.
Okay. And he a resume guy. He can get your resume together.
I do resumes.
So I mean, as y'all see it, just a very sweet couple. I knew they would be great for this because guess what? Y'all said some key things. First of all, y'all said together a lot of times, and talking about it together. You know, our theme is stronger together than apart. So and that's what you showed, and that's what helped you get through your financial things together, was working together.
But we struggled with that, Tia. Because like I said, we grew up kind of differently. So our trust factors were different. Yes. So we learn to trust each other first. And people think when you're married, you trust each other. No, you still have to work through certain trust even when you're married.
That's good. And that's true. I know that for me, trust was hard. My husband had to tell me the other day, like, I got this. I said, but I don't know how. Like, I want to know how. He said, don't worry about it. I got it. And I said, oh my God, how many times does God tell us that and we don't listen? That's what he be wanting to tell us. Don't worry about it. I got it. And so, but the trust factor is the key. And so, and that was amazing. Y'all mentioned God. Y'all mentioned tithing. Like there was I feel like there was some very strong keys that y'all mentioned, because you You know, because God helped y'all get through it and get to where you are now. You know, and so, and I know y'all personally, and y'all good budgeting. Budgeting is really key, and I think the key with a budget is to stick to the budget.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to. I get a little mad at that budget. And then I have a question though. So like, it would be a question. So when people are making a budget, should they just go off the top of their head, or should they wait and see how like a month of spending goes? So for instance, like as y'all see, y'all know us personally, y'all know we have 4 boys. So there was a transition between when they were in school and when they were at home. So that budget for those groceries looks differently now. So, and you see people who might budget for gas, would they go off of their mind, or is there a better way for them to come up with that budget, do you think?
So since I'm an analyst, I like to use Excel. And so another good thing that I was telling him the other day that I use that I think is really helpful, we bank with Bank of America, and they started this thing when I open up the app to look at our account, it tells you your categories that you're spending, and you can create categories. So you can like use that to put into Excel, like, okay, in entertainment, like it'll tell you in entertainment, you spend this much money. In groceries, you spend this much money. And like you're saying, now with the kids being home all the time, you see like, oh gosh, I've been buying way more grocery. So then if you put that in Excel formulas, you can add and subtract and, you know, add it up. So you can use that to kind of help you manipulate the dollar, you know, the amounts to see, okay, now that I'm spending more on groceries, where do I want to cut? Maybe I'm gonna cut in entertainment because we're not going nowhere. We're not going to the movies. Right. We're not going out to dinner as much, you know, so cut back on that. So you can use tools like that. Definitely Excel, your bank, like I said, Bank of America, I know they do that. And that's a good way to help you like manage and track and see what you're spending your money. I told him that too. Like we started seeing like, wait a minute, we're spending so much money on this, this, and this. Like, whoa, why are we spending all this money on this? We need to cut back like that. We're not sticking to the budget. Like this is out of control. So you need to cut back on that. And also too, finding ways to cut costs. We started looking at ways to like cut our cable bill, cut our, you know, different things to see our cell phone, like, okay, what can we do to like not spend so much money on these things? Because especially now with things that are going on, you want to have some money in the bank in case something happens. You just never know. You might lose your job, or you might have to take a furlough or anything. So you want to be prepared to be able to weather the storms. So
yeah, and let's piggyback on that. And we got the cutting the cable. We owe that to you guys. And I was listening, Charles.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Because you know, you don't know at the end of the month, like all the money that you're spending.
Yeah.
Tracking it, and we haven't been tracking it for a while. And then when stuff hits the fan, you're like, dang, where all that money going? We look at it school, and he's like, on theater and going out. You know, if it's almost $1,000 a month, like, you know. So you really have to take it into consideration and being cognizant of what you're spending. And if you tend to purchase big ticket items, a home, another home, a vehicle, the things of that nature, you have to budget for those things nowadays.
Budget for it.
And the biggest thing, I think, always pay your mortgage first.
That's a good one, because you
gotta have somewhere to live.
The essentials you have to pay off first.
You gotta have a house.
And that's
put that on auto draft.
And I'm not gonna hold y'all much longer. Just real quick, how often should somebody go back and revisit that budget?
Look, I look at it a lot. I think it depends on how well you are, how good you are with budgeting. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Sometimes I'm like, I look at it as much as I look at my account, because
you touched on it.
Like, how are we spending? But I would definitely say monthly, but I mean, I think even bi-weekly is really good.
I heard you mention it. I'm sorry, I had to step out, I had a call. But you touched on it earlier about doing an Excel spreadsheet. If you actually just Google search budget sheets in Excel, you can actually download, there's templates that you can download, and that's actually what we use. And we go over our budget, not as enough as we should, but we do. So that's how we actually plan for our various things coming up.
And then I do have a question. how do you manage trying to get out of debt? What are some suggestions?
So I think a suggestion for getting out of debt. So before we buy our first house, like we really said, okay, in order to buy this house, like we got to get our credit score up. So we got to try to pay off these bills. So we literally was eating like poor people. You know what I mean? Like trying not to eat out.
Yeah.
Being at home, cutting back, not really going out as much with friends. Like you just have to, for things that you want, you have to make sacrifices. So if that sacrifice means, okay, I'm trying to get out of debt, let me sacrifice, let me cut back on things. And again, that goes back to budgeting to see where you can trim down on things. Okay, maybe I don't need all this cable. You know, maybe I don't need this big, huge cell phone plan. So cut back on things to help, then take that extra money, the difference, and put that towards your debts.
And that's a great point. And from a marriage perspective, remember, when you become that union, you're bringing both assets and debts.
That's a good point.
Assets and debt.
So we had to focus on each individual debt and how we're going to trim that down together.
That's true.
Via student loans or credit cards, things like that. Because now I can't say, that's your bill, that's your debt. That's our debt.
Student loans.
So and vice versa. So we had to focus on that. I said, what's the biggest bill that we have together? I don't care if it's one of our debts. Let's focus on that. Let's get that out the way. If it takes us a year, get that down. Let's start with that. So working together on our biggest debts.
Down the list.
And then we down the list. And I don't care how long it takes you, but you have to start somewhere. You can't just
start somewhere. That is a good one. And then this is one somebody asked another question. I was taught as a woman, you need to keep a separate account in case things go left. Is that something you should do? Or should everything
That's
go
a good question. That's a real good question. And we're gonna be very transparent with this answer, okay?
Okay.
I do think, like I was saying, like we put our money together to pay all of our bills. And then whatever we have, okay, after our bills are paid off, right? The difference, we also give ourselves an allowance. So I think that you could communicate and say, okay, this is our allowance, for example, whatever amount a month or paycheck that you have. And then that person, so my allowance, I might be taking it and stashing it. And he might be taking his allowance and spending it. So one way you can kind of
I love it.
But so you're doing what you need to do with your money.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that you take care of your household first, and then whatever you do have left over, you should give yourselves an allowance, because you are still a human. You are still an individual. So if he wants to go out and buy a PlayStation game, and I might want to go buy me a necklace, like I can do that. Or I might want to save my money for a rainy day. So
but we will communicate when we go making that purchase.
We put that in the budget. Here's your allowance. Here's my allowance.
That's a good one. And maybe we'll even push that down towards wise counsel for people to seek down the line. Because of course, you have to use, nobody go, we don't want to say we're going into marriage thinking something's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, we realize but that was a good question. And that's what we're here for, to be transparent. Right before we close out, I just want to say, you guys will be back later with the panelists, what if you have a spouse? So one spouse might control the money. What if you have a spouse that they control the money, but the other spouse feels like they don't like that, and they're trying to figure out it. So this is going more towards communication. So because I'm having everybody touch on that. So what's a good way to communicate with their spouse, maybe, or try to communicate that they might want to see something different? Any suggestions on that? Like they might want to have some input on it.
Well, like I said, transparency, right?
Yep.
And with communication, I did have a problem. My wife is an analyst, and when it comes to finances and the whole budgeting, she is a little more aggressive and controlling on that. But a lot of because of personal experiences, I didn't make great choices. And so, I kind of levy that off and say, okay, then you can do this. So I don't have no problem with her being controlling over the finances and things like that. But when I want something and I have a goal or a plan of action of how I'm going to get something, then she's like, okay, well, then within the budget, go ahead, you do what you want to do. But yeah, you're right. You have to communicate that.
Yeah, that's good.
Communication.
Communication.
And then I think too, also one thing I think in a marriage, you have to look at each other's strong points. So don't look at it as control. Look at it as like, since I'm an analyst, I'm better with Excel. I like putting numbers in Excel and calculating them. That's not something he's really interested in. He'd rather write a resume. So that's my strong point. So it's not control, it's just that's what I'm better at. One person might be better at finance, the other person might be better at something else. So don't always look at it as control. That's how marriage is. One person might be better at cleaning, the other person might
utilize
not.
strong points of each individual.
Yeah, but work together to accomplish your goal.
Yeah, I like that.
That is good. BJ, could you put your information in the chat, either on Zoom or Facebook? Because somebody said, you said you had information, so they can figure out how to get in touch. Okay. Whatever email or whatever you're comfortable with. Okay.
Yeah, I give my work email. That's fine.
There you go. And then put it in the chat or something, because somebody wanted to know how to maybe get in touch. You said you had some additional information for financial advisors or something.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you.
Yeah,
like definitely. I said, we'll do a marriage money matters down the line. And
that'd be awesome.
That'd be right up BJ y'all's alley. Thank you. Don't go too far because we'll be bringing y'all back. We appreciate you all.
All right, thank you guys.
That was really good. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're enjoying this. Oh, yeah. I enjoy getting poured in from other couples. Some of these couples were hesitant. They don't really do a lot of in-person things or be on the forefront, but we were really led to pick the couples we chose. And I really feel like they have been a blessing. So, and yeah, somebody asked, was it being recorded? Yes, it is.
It has been recorded. Actually, once this is done, this is going to go on our YouTube. So I will have all that information below later today. It'll be pinned to the comment section.
Oh, you gave yourself a time frame. I heard it. I didn't do it to him today.
I said later today.
So next we are going to bring on the co-claws.
Yes.
And our panelists, they knew what times they were coming on, but they wanted to even be poured into too. So they've been here the whole time just enjoying all of fantastic. It. So so we're gonna bring on the co-claws, and Charles has the introduction.
Yes. All right. So we have the fantastic Kelvin and wonderful Tara co-claw. See that? How did that?
Here you
go. They have been married for 6 years this year. Kelvin has a bachelor's in engineering and a master's in rehabilitation counseling and works for the state of North Carolina. Tara is a licensed insurance agent and works in guest hospitality relations for Marriott. They have 4 beautiful children, deacon and deaconess for the Genesis Church, TGC. We are believers and our family has, they said we are believers and our family has a strong faith, spiritual base. We absolutely love God and make no apologies about it.
Amen.
So we have Tara and Kelvin co-claw. Guys, and thank y'all so much for coming on today.
You gonna tell what they're gonna talk about? They are talking about they are talking about recovering.
Oh yeah.
After the crisis.
Yes. After the crisis.
Because guess what? You went through this financial crisis, you might have went through some communication crisis, whatever the crisis may be. COVID-19 is a whole crisis in itself. And so they are going to come in their own way and talk to us about sorry y'all, we was looking at a question, and talk to us about recovering after the crisis. So we're going to turn it over and then we'll come back later and get some questions, but you all have the floor. Thank you.
Before you guys take it, I do have an anonymous question that we are going to answer when everybody comes back. So whoever wrote the anonymous question, we will answer that. Just want to make sure you guys are aware. Okay? All right. Take it away, guys.
Good evening. I want to begin by thanking Deacon and Deaconess Hampton for this opportunity to participate in this much needed seminar. I also want to thank the Jenkins couple and also the Davis couple for that much needed information on mental health and finances. I have a notebook pad full of stuff, so I'm definitely going to glean from that. Again, Deacon Hampton said that we're here to deal with coping after the unexpected. And then to prepare for this, me and my wife came upon a quote by Tootie Rose that said, "You can't really prepare for the unexpected, but you can pull together and tackle it together." And that is what we have been doing for the last 6 years of marriage. We have been through a lot. We have grown through a lot. And today we just want to share some things with you to help you, married couples, and even people that's viewing that want to be married, on how to get through some crisis. My wife will now proceed with a few things that we jotted down to know that we wanted to share.
Okay, great. Well, I'm one of the people Deaconess Hampton was talking about. Very reluctant. Although I guess I am a talker. I don't know. I have an issue with this online Zoom thing. So nerve-wracking. However, like my husband said, we were talking about coping with the unexpected. So we did our little research, and of course, with our own lives, came up with a few points that we hope will help people out when it comes to the unexpected. Funny story, for us, one of the unexpected things that happened in the beginning of our marriage, some may say it wasn't a bad thing, but it happened. My husband, we moved from South Carolina to North Carolina in 2014. And he, at the time I was expecting, so I moved here and at the time not working. So, his mind was, I'm taking care of my family and everything is good. And we appreciate that. We really do. However, I can remember he got paid and he paid everything. And I saw the money and then I didn't see the money. So it was very unexpected. And I was just like, well, you paid all the bills, but what are we going to eat? So at that time, it was very I was like, oh, wow. So I don't believe I was emotional at the time, but I just was like, Lord, how are we going to make it? Yeah. So one of the first points that we came up with, and keep in mind, we're not marriage counselors or anything. Definitely. We just want to bless somebody. And hopefully that what we talk about will help. We just came up with a few points and we'll go from there. So one of the things we came up with was letting it out. Keeping your thoughts and emotions to yourself when something happens makes it harder for you and your spouse to manage. So keeping it all in, which he is more of a thinker. Yeah. So a lot of times I have to internalize everything. Yeah. And I'm supposed to guess what he's thinking. Like if he's upset about something or at that time, it's just getting it out, letting it out. Like, telling me what you really feel.
And I think for me growing up, we have, as men, we grow up, you fall off your bike, your family tell you to get up, stop crying, men don't cry. So when you keep that mentality into your later years of life as a man, you become that individual that's not emotional. But that don't work in marriage. I'm going to let you know that don't work in marriage. As a man, we need to let those things out. Our spouses, women, they want us to talk back to them whenever they ask for a question. And as men, we internalize things, and sometimes that might not be the best point. We will come back later on with a solution, but in that moment, our spouses want us to, share on what we're feeling and what we're thinking. Because if you don't do that as a man, then you leave your spouse with guessing how you feel and leave them to their own thoughts.
And I believe it's okay to process it. Mm-hmm. It definitely is to take time to process, but sooner than later. Sooner than later. Let me know how you're feeling. So on and so forth. So practicing empathy, ability to understand and share the feelings of another, especially with something unexpected. And some examples of unexpected could be like infidelity.
Yeah, living with the spouse that say may have gotten a car accident and now they're maybe disabled, and you may have to live with that spouse and care for that spouse and things that maybe you would not have thought you would have to do. Also with the COVID-19, losing your job unexpectedly. Who's the thing that we'll be in 2020 and you have a job and things are going great and bam, here's come COVID-19 and now your job lay you off, and now you go from a household of 2 individuals working to now just 1. What does that look like? And now how would you get through that?
It looks crazy to me because I'm not the sit-at-home person. Mm-hmm. So for me to lose my job, well, my job is to put on hold until almost immediately when it was announced, because I work in the hotel business. It was like, oh, who, me? I have to stay home. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so, and that was a hit for the household. It was unexpected. And then I caught myself starting to kind of to act out. When acting out, upon realizing that I'm having to be home with the children. So I'm home all day with the kids, and I got to kind of get into a routine, and I have to do school and all of this. So I'm just, and a lot of times I had to learn how to apologize to him because, and for me, I mean, I don't like, do I think I'm always right? Probably. I had to learn how to apologize when I, just because it was unexpected, didn't give me the right to just act out, because foolish pride is a mess. Mm-hmm. Foolish pride is a mess. So just having I had to humble myself and, say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I know I'm acting this way because I need to get out the house. 4 walls is coming in on me. So losing the job was unexpected for me. Yeah. So I had to learn how to, work on my own self, work through the stuff in myself that, i.e. what that means going back to school. Don't blame it on him because there's something that's happened. It's not his fault. Mm-hmm. And even if it had been something that's his fault, still learning how to, don't let your pride get in the way. If you have to apologize about something, practicing empathy, and of course, learning, turning to other couples that you trust. Definitely. As far as if it's something unexpected, you may not, go to family to talk about things, but go to somebody you trust. For us, it's our parents. Yeah. Although, because, when you got to be careful too with family, especially depending on what the situation is. And of course, our leadership, shouts out to the Genesis Church, our leaders, Pastor Johnny Brown and Lady Rachel Brown, definitely wise counsel as far as going through unexpected things.
And I would definitely like to chime in on that. Also, before you go to another couple, you have to discern that couple actually love each other. Because you can go to a couple that, because they are married and you want advice, but they might not like each other. So I may talk to the man and he said, you know what, I wouldn't deal with that. I don't feel like you. So you have to discern that couple actually love each other when you're trying to choose the couple to go to. And to just back up a little bit, when my wife was talking about empathy, for her, I had to have empathy to know that before my wife went back to work, she stayed home for almost 2.5 years watching the kids. So now that she has this routine, she has her own job and she's making her money for something like COVID-19 to come, I had to empathize and have empathy with her when it came to her sometimes lashing out, because it's like what I had now when I was building has now been cut from up under my feet. So I really don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with the unexpected. So how can, my feelings show how I feel? So I had to have empathy with her as it relates to that.
Yeah, because trouble sometimes, unexpected things will show you who you really are. Trouble is either going to build you or break you. Yeah. So sometimes when things happen, like I said, you have to work with your own self. Like, now, is it really is it something in me that may be broken? Maybe I'm blaming, it's unexpected. Yes, we got to deal with it. Okay. But am I acting out because of something that your spouse has done? Yeah. Or is this something really within you? Really? And stop trying to be right about everything all the time. Yeah. When we have conversation about the unexpected situation, why you always got to be right? Why we can't just listen? Let's work through it. We together, we have decided that we're going to stay together. Yeah. We're going to be together. So let's work through it. And Yeah, gotta stop holding grudges.
And just to also add, do not use past unexpected things as ammunition for future stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost like you putting this in your back pocket that when we have an argument in the future, then I'm gonna start pulling out stuff that happened in the past, because it's very hard to move forward in marriage by looking back. So we have to learn how to let those things go. And if we truly say that we forgive and that we're gonna work through things, we really gotta mean that, folks.
We definitely gotta mean it, and addressing the real problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think we find situations where we feel like it's an unexpected issue, but it's really something underlying that we just keep overlooking and keep building on it and keep building on it. Then eventually it becomes something huge. And it's like, it's not really not unexpected. It was always there.
Yeah.
So, we just scraping the scab off it. We're not letting it heal. It really, we just scraping and keep going, and it's not really healing. So if it's unexpected, you definitely need to go ahead and face it. Let's deal with it. Let's find out what it really is. Give this thing a definition. So that we can work through it. We know, and of course, we are spiritual people. We believe in God. Prayer. You definitely got to have prayer. Prayer has to be the number one thing for us if we're going to deal with anything unexpected. And you have to have faith. And of course, love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. It talks about the greatest is love.
Yes.
The greatest is love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's charity, and of course, that's love. And now about it, faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. So I hope that this has helped somebody. It has definitely helped us. Let it out, apologize, practice empathy, turn into a couple you trust, work through it. Stop trying to always be right. Stop holding grudges and have love and love one another. I think we're done.
All right, stay. Don't go lower again.
So y'all did a good job. And I wanted to say about, especially when dealing with the unexpected, we went through a situation maybe like 2 years ago where I lost my job and I lost my car. That thing hurt me to my soul. But go through cry. Man, listen, you know I was almost about to cry. I was about to cry thinking about it.
I was there for you, brother. I was there for you.
So when you go through crises and times of unexpected turmoil, these things really come to test your mettle. You can train all you can when you're in the gym, but when it's time to fight, how much fight do you actually have in you? So but for the grace of God, we made it through that situation, and we're doing way much better now. And I'm gonna buy that car back one day, buddy. Believe me,
a better one.
A better one.
But the thing is, like she said, being people of faith and being people of knowing where your help come from. No, a lot of people didn't even know. We would still have people that might have been trying to borrow money and different things, not knowing we was probably robbing Peter to pay Paul and everything else.
But trust and believe, it was covered.
But that's a lot, because as a wife, you're looking like, oh my God, your husband might be supposed to protect you. Then that goes back to how our last week was talking about trust. Because you might be like, I don't know if I can trust this. And then I think that's where tithing and certain things come into play. Because guess what? We're not trusting the individual, but we're putting our trust in God. So when we put our trust in God, we know He got our back regardless. So maybe one of our spouses, like right now, we're exposed at our job. We have to be off for 2 weeks with no pay. So, these are things that you have to look at. So, and y'all said some powerful things. I love prayer, faith, and love. Them things right there will get you through.
Get you through every time.
Period. I don't care.
And sometimes people think prayer means you got to get on your knees and you have to be talking a lot. Sometimes I just have to lay there before God and say, listen, you have to help me. I don't have a word to say. I'm very angry. So you have to help me. You have to help me right now. So
that's amazing. It was so funny when she said our pastor, Deacon, and this one both said whoop whoop at the same time. We was like, ooh. So yes, we are a very strong church family. So that's amazing. And they'll probably touch on that under seeking wise counsel. But even with getting through, lean on those, like you said, that you could trust, that you discern to be what you need to be, because sometimes you need to get it out. Deaconess Coco, she's a good one with pulling my coattail because I don't like to get anything out. So sometimes you need to get things out because you can't keep them in, because then it goes back to the beginning, which is mental health. If your mental health isn't right, nothing else is going to go right. I know when I feel like I'm everywhere, I could be working a whole day and I don't feel like I got nothing accomplished because I wasn't focused. And so sometimes, as y'all, go ahead.
To elaborate, one thing that sticks with me over these years, these 6 years, is something that my former pastor said. He said, when it comes to crisis, you have to trace it, face it, and erase it.
Okay. I like it.
Because a lot of times, a lot of times you have things that emotions you acting out, and your spouse is like, where all this coming from? And they don't know, as a 12-year-old or a 7-year-old, something happened, but now you're 34 years old or you're 40-something years old and you're acting out, and it's like, I don't know how to deal with this crisis. I don't know how to deal with this unexpected. Where's all this coming from? So you have to sometimes sit down and you have to trace it. Like, why do I act like this? Why am I very combative? And then once you trace it and figure out where it came from, you have to face it. And once you face it, then you have to say, okay, I'm gonna erase this thing. I'm not gonna keep moving forward and try to hold on to that 13-year-old little child.
Oh
man, that's powerful right there.
That's amazing. And I'm about to let y'all go. And the last thing I'm about to say and the last thing is just even with dealing with crisis, we always say, like you said, it's funny you said Tracy, because what I have is think about why you started what you started, why you started that marriage. Go back to the beginning. And sometimes you might have to sit back and go back to your dating phase and think about why you actually started. So we appreciate you guys. I know you had a couple of things going on with Deaconess, but I don't know if y'all still be at the end, but we'll bring y'all back. But we almost done it right. Thank you guys. You guys were amazing. Y'all even had some great comments coming through, and some people say y'all helped them amazingly. Yeah. So thank you so much. Bye. You guys, thank you guys for hanging. We know some people have been popping off and popping in, but it's okay. We know sitting down for a couple hours is a lot, but this is very, and it's a lot for me because y'all know, I think I got ADD. I'll be bouncing all around. But
so again, but even though people have been leaving and coming back, and I have been watching it work, that's fine. Again, it is going to be on our YouTube channel later, so make sure you follow the Marriage at Third Ring on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type it in.
And we're at our last couple. And then we will get that anonymous question answered. Is there any more y'all can send them through? The way it came through anonymously, we really don't even know who it is. They actually just put it in as an anonymous one. So if you want to, that is more than working. That's more than good to just send them in if y'all don't want to ask them. And then now we have Nicole and Jamie Pittman, actually Elder Jamie and Minister Nicole Pittman. Now I want to make sure I get their titles right. They have been married for 12 years. Tomorrow is their anniversary. I forgot. Happy anniversary, you guys. They're members of Christ Deliverance Temple in Charlotte, North Carolina, where their pastors are Apostle and Bishop Lucky. And then Jamie and Nicole, they are the youth pastors, I believe, at the church. They are the owners of Charlotte's own Christian-based Paint and Sip, Paint and Praise. So if y'all, once everything opens back up, they get them Paint and Praise. So if you're looking for a Christian type one, and they will come to you. Jamie is an IT support technician and a high school technology teacher here in Charlotte. And Nicole works for the city of Charlotte in housing and neighborhood services. So they are going to come to us. And as you see, they both are ministers and elders in the church. And they're going to come to us about seeking wise counsel.
And they're actually sharing their screen.
Yeah, so if you can see their screen, they're actually sharing it. And we're going to turn it over to them. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Tia, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank y'all so much. I just want to say, first of all, thank y'all for putting this on. Y'all are awesome. There we go. Tia, we're not caught up on titles. We're Nicole and Jamie. But we're just going to throw up a slideshow that Jamie created, just so that it's a visual that everybody can actually look at and take notes if they want to. And we always like to just put out a scripture just to back up what we're saying and what we're doing, okay? So talking about seeking wise counsel, we're just going to use Psalms 1:1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful.
Yeah, so when you think about seeking wise counsel, I always think about the scripture first, because it's telling you that if you want to be blessed, that there are going to be many types of counsel that we come across. As we know, all the way from childhood to adulthood to being in a marriage, there's many voices. Even especially in this day and age, I think the first couple talked about social media. We have so many voices on social media that want to weigh in on subjects. But when you lean to godly counsel and lean to counsel that can give you a godly or wise perspective, then that is how you can be blessed. That is the way that's ordained for us to be blessed. We kind of just wanted to talk about counsel, and you know, at the core of it is just form of advice or guidance. So the form of advice or guidance you may get for somebody. But when you really think about it more, counsel should have some type of academic, legal, or moral weight to it. And when we say weight, we mean something that is standing behind it, something that gives it credence. So if you go and talk to a lawyer, you know, they have had the training, they have the knowledge, and they have a reputation behind it. When you talk to your pastor or your church leaders, they have to answer to God. We are minister of the gospel, so we have to answer to God with what we may give you. So I'm giving you something that has some type of weight behind it, and not something that when it falls through and you ask me about it tomorrow, I'll say, well, hey, nobody ever told you to listen to me. So you see how that happens for people sometimes. When we say wise is having a showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. And all those things kind of combine for wisdom. We know each person has different experiences that God leads us to and takes us through. We all gain individual knowledge, and we have to bring about good judgment in order to call ourselves wise. Solomon was known as being one of the wisest men that ever lived, because he was able to hear what the people brought before him and give them godly wisdom and knowledge and use that judgment. So the one thing we just wanted everybody to remember, that all counsel is advice, but not all advice is counsel, because not all advice meets that criteria of being godly or having some type of weight behind it. So we just wanted to kind of expose those few things between wise counsel versus advice. So on the left-hand side, we have wise counsel, where the person is using their knowledge or their experience. We've been married for 12 years. So if we tell you things that we've gone through, things we've experienced, as the other couple mentioned, using transparency, that's using our knowledge and experience. Formally requested, that's one that where you actually are seeking the knowledge or seeking advice, whereas sometimes you can get advice which is not requested from anybody. People just want to chime in on your situation, or chime in on what they believe is going on, or chime in on what they believe is happening in your marriage or what you're going through. And then using sound judgment, like we talked about, being able to judge righteously and correctly what's going on and carrying some weight.
Right. And just to touch on advice, opinion-based and containing bias kind of, to me, would intertwine together, because, again, advice is opinion-based. Somebody's telling you what they think you should do or what they feel like you should do versus their experience or their actual knowledge of what it is that you're talking about. May or may not be requested. Like he said, sometimes you go to somebody, you know, open-heartedly asking for advice versus somebody just, again, giving you an opinion about what they think you should do. And like Jamie stated earlier, he touched on the whole weight versus authority, being able to actually give advice based on having that background or that knowledge versus just somebody who doesn't have that experience.
So we basically wanted to talk about 4 different things. So the need for wise counsel. So why would anybody need it? Seeking wise counsel, discerning wise counsel, which I think my brother, the deacon, just touched on a little bit, and counsel versus complaint. So the need for wise counsel. Sometimes we have where people don't understand or see the need that they would have for counsel, but it is something that's biblically confirmed. So when you look at Proverbs 11:14, it gives you some scriptures. When there is no guidance, the people fall, but in the abundance of counselors, there is victory. Proverbs 12:15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel. And Proverbs 15:22, without consultation, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they succeed. So we wanted to, when you think about that, why do people resist, ignore, or refuse counsel? We're in a day and age, some people, even when you speak about marriage counseling or before things get to that crisis point, people don't want to seek out that wise counsel. So we talked about some ways why they may feel that way. So, my wife, what are some ways that you feel like it cause people to?
So based on come down to fear of perception, just being afraid of how people look at you. Like T, I know you said earlier that even with this whole seminar that is, wonderful that you put together, a lot of people may not have wanted to come on with that fear of perception that people may think something's wrong with my marriage or it needs to be fixed, which there's nothing wrong with, wanting to tune up something before it gets to a point to where it may be going downhill. And that can also fall with previous bad experiences. If you reached out to someone before and it didn't end so well, then that would put a bad taste in your mouth to say, I'd rather just deal with this behind closed doors and deal with this on my own versus trying to go out and seeking, wise counsel.
Yeah, I think some of the times where we have gotten advice or bad advice or bad counsel even versus wise counsel is what causes people to want to resist or ignore wise counsel. Right. So it's a very big difference between wise counsel is beneficial for you in multiple ways. The counsel of foolish people or ungodly people can lead you down a road where you don't want to go. So going back to the 3 verses that we talked about, it very clearly lists what those benefits bring you. So where there's guidance, you have victory. So the benefit is victory in your marriage. So when you as a married couple can speak to other couples, other people who can lead you and guide you in a wise way, then that leads to victory in your marriage. Even though on today, somebody may have overcome or won a victory hearing about ways that they could work on their finances or ways that they could come together with a budget. But if you refuse that or you're not open to that, then you may miss that victory that God was allowing to be created for you. Even down to wisdom. When we think that we have it all together on our own, when God is able to bring wisdom into our lives. Many of us have went to school and got education and knowledge, but we know that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So when God gives that gift of wisdom and that special word of wisdom through somebody, then that is something to be treasured all on its own. And then the third one, of course, is success in your endeavor. So me and my wife are a team. So I believe one of the other couples talked about, we have our plans or our goals that we're going through, and the people that God places in your life, the counsel that you use can help you to reach those goals. So seeking counsel. So of course, we talked about God placing people in your life. So Of course, you want to go to God first in prayer and asking Him to make the ways, but God answers a lot of our prayers through the people. Even today, we see all of the wonderful kingdom people that God has placed around us and made available so that you can say, hey, I know a couple that I could talk to about mental health. I know a couple that I could talk to about my finances. I know a couple that I could talk to about trying to get out of rough situations, and recognizing those people around you and utilizing their gift.
Right. This kind of tag team on what you were saying. It's funny, Tia, that you asked us to talk about this, because that was Seeking Wise Counsel. I don't want to say it was something I was struggling with, but that was kind of my prayer to God, was to place more married people in our lives, not to take anything away from single people. But when you're married, there's only so much that you can go to a single person and discuss, right? Not saying that we have anything, wrong in our marriage, but it's a difference when a couple can go to another married couple and sit down and have a conversation about marital issues or marital life in general. I can't go to my single friend and talk to her about, let's go out as a threesome, you know what I'm saying? So I just thank God that He has placed married couples in our lives. Even Tia and Charles, I think we met maybe about 2 years ago now, and it was through Married the Third Ring. So I said all that to say, if you pray and use discernment, God will place people in your life, and you may not know why, but at the end it'll come out.
Yeah, I think that really is important to see. If anybody who's familiar with the corporate world or with leadership, people who are successful in those areas, it's not because they know everything, it's not because they have mastered everything, but they found a way to build a team of counselors. I know some people may not like that, but we have a president right now who doesn't really value wise counsel sometimes, and you see what happens to be the end result. And that can be the same way with a lot of people. Kings, emperors, you have to be able to recognize those people and be able to utilize those gifts that are in the body. So just talking about the gift of counsel, we're not going to read through all of that, but there are multiple examples in the Bible that shows where people were able to step in and give counsel to help build or lead the people to where they need to go. From Moses' father-in-law giving him counsel on how to manage the multitude from Israel, to Joseph, wisdom and counsel, allowing him to manage Potiphar's house, then managing the prison, then managing the country. Daniel served under multiple rulers. Even though they all didn't recognize his God as the one and true God, they recognized the gift of counsel that was on him in a needed time. So what are we saying really is just don't overlook the people God is placing in your life. And you may have to look outside your comfort zone. So these people that we mentioned, the Pharaoh, he got Joseph out of the prison, but he was placed there by God for a time such as this. So sometimes we are introduced to people or certain things happen. This webinar, for example, maybe is simply to introduce you for somebody for a time such as this. And we have to humble ourselves to hear not only the voice of God, but hear godly wisdom when it comes through wise counsel. If we can humble ourselves to do that, then God can show us and use the people He's put in place to take us to where we need to go. I'll let my wife start off with discerning counsel.
But just to tap back on what I said earlier, just use good judgment. My husband and I were preparing for this on yesterday, and we're kind of talking about using discernment when you do go out to search counsel, especially when you're looking for godly counseling. I mean, you wouldn't go to a unsaved couple for godly advice, right? So just using good judgment and discernment. So discern and vet your counsel. Experienced or experience? Are you going to someone that's seasoned or someone who just got married last week? If you're, somebody who's been married 20 years, I'd probably be more prone to go to you for advice versus somebody who just got married last week. And not taking anything away from that person, but you don't have the experience that I may be looking for depending on the situation. Knowledge, specific knowledge or opinions. Again, like Jamie said earlier, you want to talk to somebody who actually has knowledge and experience about what they're talking about, not just giving you the advice off the top of their head. God forbid if my husband was sick, I would want to speak with somebody who's actually been through that type of situation, because you took your vows for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. So I may go to someone and say, I'm really having an issue with this. Can you help me? But if you haven't been through that yourself and have the experience and that background to tell me, you're gonna make it. This is how I can't go to you and actually take what you're saying to heart, because you're just telling me what you think I want to hear.
When you get into the moral authority, so what is backing them or their counsel? So just like a lawyer, they'll tell you, okay, my counsel is good here, I don't want to counsel you in this area. When you think about somebody counseling you in your marriage, you and your wife, then you have to think of what type of authority are they coming with? What reason is it are they coming with? Judgment, weighing in the options and the consequences. So the bias that people have, the personal baggage and the issues. So sometimes that can lead to a lot of stress, because you have to understand who you're getting the counseling from, or who you're getting opinions from, who you're getting advice from, what type of personal baggage or issues are they bringing in. So me and my wife just had words on this morning, and then you asked me about a marital issue, and I'm still mad about what my wife said. And so now I want you to be mad at your wife. Or I'm saying, oh, that sounds just like my wife. And so instead of giving you sound judgment, I'm giving you my own biased opinion.
Is your goal to really support me, or are you trying to destroy me? Are you happy in your marriage and you genuinely have my best interests at heart? Or are you down and out and depressed and you want everybody else to be down and out and depressed? Like Jamie just said, you can't tell everybody your business. I think I heard one of my brothers say that, maybe Charles. You can't tell everybody your business, because everybody's not going to be happy for you. They are looking to, for you to fail. They don't, want to always hear that you're just always on cloud 9. So intentions is definitely something that you should look at before seeking counsel.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just for you to use discernment. So there's going to be a lot of voices and people that can give counsel. And there are going to be a lot of people who will give wise counsel. And there's going to be people who will give what sounds like wise counsel. And there are going to be people who give what is obviously bad counsel. But you still have to discern. And so if you use these to kind of check off and think about it, okay, what is their bias? Why are they telling me this? What is their intention? Is it their intention love, or is their intention peace, or is their intention strife or pain? And we hate to think of it sometimes in those aspects, but sometimes pain loves company. Right. So you have to remember that even when you're vetting counsel. The one thing I also want to throw in there is you can't discount the counsel of your spouse as well. Right. So sometimes we think about, our marriage and counseling and going to an outside source or outside marriage, or that we have issues between us. But as someone said, you may have to think about the things that you're going with and say, I need to talk to my spouse. Maybe they're the person that God has already placed and ordained in your life, and he has already sent the answer through them. They already have the word to be able to share with you, to be able to calm you down. And the last thing we just wanted to touch on was simply, are you seeking counsel or complaint? So we wanted to say that was especially dangerous with, we're all good, especially dangerous with family and close friends. Why? Because that can taint the image of your spouse and your relationship, and it doesn't lead to solutions. So are you actually seeking wise counsel, or are you seeking to vent?
This is really, I like this. This is a good one right here, because so many times we would get pulled on by people that might just want to be venting and not really even wanting any help. That was a good one. You guys, this was good. And I love the PowerPoint image as well. So that was very good. All counsel is advice, but not all advice is counsel. That was good. That's good right there. And that's a good nugget, because that's so true. You see so many people that post their problems on Facebook, and you got people that just want to be nosy, don't really want to be, in there, and don't, just want to give them some. They probably single can be, or can't stand themselves that day. But, that is very good. And then just like he said, another good nugget that the hardest thing though is when you have to counsel after you just then fell out with your spouse. But you have to make sure that when you mentally prepare yourself to counsel that person, that you know that you have their best interests at heart, and you can't take your problems into that counsel if you are a person that someone is seeking out to be their wise counsel. So you guys did an amazing job. I loved it. You loved it?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I was over here talking about I love the Bible study.
Everybody with their scripture today. We're going to bring all of our panelists back on as well, because we do have a few questions for everybody. Everybody's popping back on, so we appreciate it. So we are actually, you guys, we are on a great time. We're finishing up, but we have some questions that we promised to ask to the panelists before, and I appreciate everybody's time. I didn't tie my hair up when I was over here playing. I got a text like your hair. So the one question that came through our anonymous question was, you want to read it?
Oh, yeah. I'll mute everybody so everybody can hop on. All right, so the question was, can you be one in one thing and single in another in marriage? Basically, financially, one of us still thinks because one person has a bill that's theirs and not ours.
Whoever wants to take that can.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we talked about finances, we'll take it. So my thoughts is, it's hard. Like, trust and believe. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, that's your bill. Especially if the person had the bill before you guys got married. Say they ran up a credit card bill or something in their 20s and then y'all got married. It's hard. You want to really be like, that's your bill, you deal with it. But at the end of the day, you are stronger together. So, and the thing is, if you are married to that person and I take that approach, okay, you know what, that's your bill, you had it before we got married, I'm not going to deal with it. Well, guess what? The company that person owes, when at the end of the day, they don't care about that. They're going to garnish that person's wages or come after them with a lien or whatever, you know what I mean? Or affect their credit. And that's still going to affect you together. So you go to buy a house or a car together, even though I'm saying, oh, you know what, that's his bill, I'm not worried about it because he got married, he had that before we got married. Well, if that affects his credit score by not paying it or, whatever, then when we go to do something together, it's affecting both of us. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it's going to eventually probably affect both of you either way. So it's better to communicate about it and just try to deal with it. Because again, you're better together. And trust and believe, that is hard, because you really do, like, you had that before we got married, but yeah, it's going to affect your marriage.
And that's going to happen. But what I'm going to say is strengthening your finances and tackling those debts strengthens your marriage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't say that in each one.
Agreed.
That's good.
And I was going to say, like, if it affects her, it affects me. And if it affects her, it affects the household. So there is no separation. You can, when you're married, you become one flesh. So you can separate your flesh from your finances, but how can you be one if I got my money, she got her money over there, and that's none of my business. But hey, we in the same household, and we in this household together, we need to tackle this whole household
together. Yep.
It is. Now, on another note, so yesterday y'all was being petty. I'm gonna tell on myself.
Yeah.
So it's funny that Tia answered the question because yesterday he went and go get the food from the food truck that was in their neighborhood. So I would not buy his food because he would not go get it.
She refused to go get the food, but she would order herself some food. So how?
So on that note, I did tell him that, nope, I'm not buying your food, but that was not very nice. So we do all have our petty moments, just being transparent.
Some more than others.
Because he still had to pay her for his separate food.
Yeah, okay, so she wouldn't even order it. She wouldn't even order it and then wouldn't pay for it.
But so certain times we can be petty, but when you are married, you are one. We do let our flesh and we want to come into it, but you got to remember who you are, and it's a good thing to bring those things together.
Yes.
And one time's okay. We'll let you see. It's okay to be petty sometimes, right?
Yesterday. So yes.
That Gemini is so petty.
DJ. And then our next question I have is, because I had some questions that came on ahead of time. I need everybody to give me one thing that keeps a marriage successful, and then also, how do you keep your marriage, and they use this word, I know we're married to third ring, but they want to know, how do you keep your marriage spicy?
We'll start with the code clause.
I knew you was going to do
that. How do you keep your marriage what?
So the first thing is, what's one thing that keeps your marriage successful? And then how do you keep your marriage spicy? And then, we'll do that.
I guess I'll do the spicy.
You know what?
Honey, I have 4 children. Spice. Okay. But just taking moments to ourselves, even if it's just outside in the backyard, and trying to be as spontaneous as we can with the 4-year-old.
Okay.
That's just about as spicy as it's getting right now with the pandemic. We can't go anywhere. Not too much.
You were all over the place. I already know.
Listen, I ain't
my son. Yeah. So, but what keeps our marriage? Honesty.
Yeah, open communication.
We talk about it all. We talk about it, stuff that we probably, most people were like, why would you talk about it? Because it's necessary.
Yeah, and I think for me, what helps me to sleep well at night is the fact that, through the course of getting married and stuff, me and my wife talked about everything. So there's no one that can hold something over her head or stuff that they may not know because I already told it. So at the end of the day, I can rest assured, I can rest at night, or I don't have to, look over my shoulder of what's going on, because again, we took that time to really talk about things that the couple said before us. Like, they're open, they talk about, everything. So I think that's important in marriage. Don't have someone that has something over your spouse because you didn't let them know.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I think one of the things, I think we have to try and take on the attitude that we're a team. I think oftentimes couples they're together, but they're still individuals. And I think when you take on the mindset of that we're a team, what affects me affects her. Mm-hmm. And her success is my success, and my success is her success. And when I look at it as a team, I'm not going to do anything to mess up my partner, because what happens to her and the damage that I cause to her, I'm really hurting myself. Yeah. And I think as long as we keep in mind that we're a team, and then I know with my niece and Charles, the third chord, but as it relates to what we're talking about, I think that we always have to remember that we're a team. We're not an isolated individual, we're a team.
And then how y'all keep it spicy? Who answering that one?
So keeping it spicy, I'm glad we have people with different, at different levels of their life, what have you, because we don't have any small children or anything at home. So we do staycations, we travel, and when we go, we try to act like, ooh, this is our honeymoon. So we keep it spicy by traveling and remembering the honeymoon.
That's all right, who we coming next? T and BJ, go ahead.
I answer the spicy part.
Oh God.
What was the first part of the question?
What's one thing that keeps your marriage successful?
Definitely communicating and having patience with someone. I think, like, especially now we're home together a lot. So just, okay, I can't, having patience. He might not do things the way that I would normally do things, or, things he may not handle the kids the way that I would. But you know what? It's going to be okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Everybody does things differently. But at the end of the day, as long as we're accomplishing the same goal, it's fine. So just being patient, allowing grace in your marriage, just kind of, okay. And then definitely communicating.
All right, go ahead, BJ, with your answer.
And then piggyback on that and not trying to hold on to grudges and things like that.
Yeah, letting stuff go.
You got to let stuff go and let God, because if you don't, it will consume you both in your marriage. To spike this, I'm a cute.
No.
End point. No. But for real, you got to keep. For some reason, you have to keep reinventing yourself and things you do. I mean, things get old. And then so you got to find certain things. And I think someone said in the first segment about love languages and things like that. I'm honest, I didn't know anything about that within the last 5 years. Like, what is she talking about, love languages and stuff? So I had to research that, and now I'm hearing a lot more about it right now. But so I use that as a tool, her love language and things like that. And sometimes I have to say, oh, she likes this guy, acts of service and things like that. So. And she learns mine. So I utilize that a lot.
That's good. Thank you. And then we have Nicole and Jamie. One thing that you would say is a success to your marriage, or key to marriage, keeping a marriage successful, and how do you keep your marriage spicy?
I would say first off, traveling. Like this couple over here said, they don't have small kids. We don't have small kids either. So Corona won't let us be great right now. Otherwise, we'd be in the middle of an ocean. But even if we can't get away somewhere, outside of the country, even just going down to the beach, just, him and I being able just to spend quality time together, leaving work at home, leaving family at home, just being with just me and him and just refreshing ourselves. So, and also communication, keeping communication open, being honest with each other, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, I think really understanding each other. That's why I like the part, just like my brother said, that y'all mentioned about love languages, because I think just understanding how each other works. I know that sometimes I have my time where I like to be alone, but my wife understands that now. So even if we go on vacation, we might do all these things, and she knows, like, it might be one day where I wake up and I'm like, I just want to chill. And she knows that that's not because I'm upset or I don't want to be with her. She knows it's just me. And then I know that after I have that day, that she's going to want to go and run and do all this and take pictures and do all this social stuff that I don't want to do at all. But I want to do it. But it's just, having that understanding and saying, okay, well, we don't have to turn this into an argument. I'll let you be you be you, and we love each other exactly as we are.
Now, one of y'all preachers got to answer how you keep your marriage spicy.
She did. She said travel.
Oh, it's travel.
We were spicy on the boat, man.
No, y'all fine. And then also I seen a cute thing. Nicole sells paparazzi. And the other night they was doing a midnight live, and I was up buying jewelry. But he was helping her. He had he was her little assistant. You was asleep. He was and he was up helping her. I said, how did you get the husband to help you sell your jewelry? But that, I know that meant a lot to her, because he was asking trivia questions and everything. while she was promoting her jewelry. So I just want to, before my panelists leave, we have Tara Deaconess Cocoa. She does photos. BJ already told y'all what he does. Parrish and Stephanie. Stephanie's a speech therapist, y'all. Y'all got some issues with speech. Call her. She does my proofreading. She gets me together. Even when I post something on Facebook that look crazy, she called me, Tia, you gotta fix this. Yeah, so she helped me with a lot of proofreading. So we have some wonderful tools and key people on this Zoom today that has side things, but we appreciate you all. The only other thing I want to say is, and it was one last question I had, and then also with just Spicy, we always say make love with the lights on. So texting throughout the day, just let your spouse know you're thinking about them, because sometimes just that little hi, how you doing, what you up to, and you thinking they want to talk about bills or they want to talk about something else, but really they just want to check in on you. That just makes you feel good. And then when they talk about budgeting, don't talk about a budget or money every single night, because that's a lot. Nobody wants to come home and deal with the finances every night. Set aside a day, pick a Saturday, we get paid twice a week, once a month. We're going to pick one of those days to actually sit down and talk about our finances, so we're not, boggling our spouse down with, oh, we might not have the money for this, or we might not have the money for that. That's a lot of stress that you don't need. And that adds extra pressure to your marriage when sometimes it can already be a lot going on. Yeah. So them are just some of the things I just wanted to add to this wonderful session you all have had. It was very enjoyable. Maybe one day after Corona, we make this a big old weekend event or something and go somewhere, because everybody likes to travel, different breakout sessions. Even, you might bring a blended family course or something. So, because these are all things that all impact our marriages. And just, if anybody wanted to take this, first of all, to anybody, when you got married, everybody right here, does your marriage now look like you thought it was going to be before you got married? Is there anybody that can say yes? I know, okay. So this question, does marriage look like what you thought it would be like? And I think that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, because we realized no.
And I think when you have that perception of marriage, and you get however many years down the road looking at marriage, that can cause a crisis, because then at some point, like she said earlier, 3 years in, she wanted to pump the brakes, and she was done.
I don't want to be with him.
Right, because she had this perception. I mean, of course, we all have some things to work on, and marriage is new for us. But when your perception does not align with reality, that can cause a crisis.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you're communicating with each other.
Yes. So that was the last question that we had. Go ahead, Parrish. You had a question. You had a question.
No, I was just thinking too. I think, and I know this from history, but I think a lot of times when people get married, they have this fantasy of what they assumed or were told, imagined that marriage would be. And I think we can make those realities and fantasies come true, but it takes a lot of work. Marriage just doesn't happen. And I think if we realize and understand that marriage takes work, and also I know too that, and my wife is tapping me under the table, and I know too that it does take work. And what you'll find is that oftentimes marriage will turn out better than you thought it would be.
Oh yeah.
Some of our examples have been poor examples of what marriage should be.
Exactly.
And I know that's my case in particular. And so marriage for me, especially when God gives you who he wants for you, marriage can be an awesome, awesome experience. And I'm very blessed to be married to who I'm married to.
Yeah. Look, I feel like that was a great thing to it.
I see spicy right now.
I didn't know it was supposed
to be. Well, we want to appreciate y'all. Any closing remarks from anyone? No. Okay. Well, we thank everybody that has tuned in. Like I said, this will either be, I will go back and watch this later, because y'all have just blessed me. I was taking notes the whole time we were talking, because these were some very important things, and I appreciate you. All of our panelists will be getting something special from us. And so I'll be reaching out to you guys, because I appreciate your time and your effort and your preparing for this. And you all did amazing. So thank you so much. If any questions come in later, we will forward them to the appropriate couple. And I just want to say I thank you.
Yes. So again, if any, like you said, questions can come in via our Facebook page, Marriage the Third Ring, or on our website at mt3r.net. There's a contact us button. You can click that, it comes right to us.
Yes. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful evening and enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.